when I had a baby, I went to the doctor. And of course, afterwards, I was like, oh, when am I going to lose this weight? And she said, 9 months in, 9 months out. Like you didn't put that weight on in a minute, and it's not coming off in a minute. Check out this clip from Headspace Studios' podcast series, Dear Headspace. Hi, guys. How you two doing? How's everybody doing today?
Good.
I'm doing well. I love Eve's pause. She had to think about, am I good today?
I think we all have to think about if we're good today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, how am I?
I feel like that's such a loaded question when people say, how are you? I'm always like, because I really try to answer it. I'm like, well, I'm doing all right, I think.
Yeah.
And it sounds so weird when I do that.
And I think my friends get tired of me because I'm always like, I'm present. I'm present. That is my eternal answer.
For.
Yeah, I'm here.
Well, we have got a couple of work questions today, so I'm so glad to have my two coworkers here. I can't wait to hear what your take is. And the first one is about taking care of yourself as a freelancer. And I'm going to say it really jumps out at me as a freelancer. So let's get right to it, shall we?
Yeah.
Here is Anne with her question.
Hi, my name is Anne. I am from the United States, but I'm currently living abroad. My question is about mental health care and finances, specifically when you work for yourself. I have a really hard time taking breaks. I do take breaks during the day, but it tends to be kind of when I hit a wall and can't go any further and I'm just too depleted to continue, so it doesn't really feel like a break. I have tried to take breaks, and when I do, I feel like I'm missing out on valuable time. I could be making more money. And because I work for myself, I also worry a lot about money opportunity lost. Saying no to projects, even taking a day off feels like I can count exactly how much money I've lost because I've taken a day off. I am in a financially tight situation. Because of the move abroad, I wasn't able to work for a little over a year. All the savings are depleted and money has been really tight, and I'm actually in debt as well. So I have been able to find a pro bono therapist, which has been a literal lifesaver. Yeah, I guess just any insight you have on this in particular. It's been something that's been kind of sticky for me for a while, so I'd appreciate any help that you guys can offer. Thanks so much.
Oh, Anne, thanks for this question. You two, I just want to say it starts off like the question starts off like it's going to be simple, like just take some walks, take some breaks. And then the more that Anne starts to talk, it becomes clear that this is a much bigger, larger issue about security and finances and safety and all of that. So I'm curious what you all think.
I was honestly, what came up for me is this, because we've all been in these tough situations, right? When there's just so much going on that's out of our control externally, and it makes it really hard to enjoy life. It makes it really hard to find happiness and to find joy. For me, even in my own personal life, I really, in these moments, I kind of hunker down, but I really start to enjoy almost like the very small things. I'll never forget, I saw this quote and it said, we pass miracles every day, but we have the audacity to call them little things. And that really resonated with me. So in the summer of 2020, when there's social unrest and there's just so much going on, I, for some odd reason, started to become infatuated with flowers. I would really just stare at these flowers, the colors and everything. And it was in a moment where there was a lot of financial stress and just a lot of other stressors. And I started to have more of these moments where I'm like, okay, all of this is out of my control. What can I appreciate in my current surroundings? So it was the beauty of the people, the beauty of the city, beauty of nature, the people around me. So there's a lot of gratitude, but really paying attention and leaning into things that are really these small miracles around us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. Because it's almost like there's two parts to this question, right? There's the facts of Anna's talking about, real money concerns and issues of I couldn't work for a year. I depleted my savings. I'm in debt. So there's the fact side that needs to be kind of handled and addressed. But then there's also the emotion side, which is what you're talking to about, because she may not have the money. Well, we know she doesn't have it because she said she doesn't have the money to go on a vacation right now. But there's appreciation in the day to day. And I think that's really interesting.
Mm. Yeah, this resonates with me for two reasons. One, I've been in a lot of debt before, and two, I've moved abroad. And I can really sympathize, especially in that first year. My husband couldn't work as well. It can become very isolating because your independence, for a large part, can often be tied to your work. And obviously finances open up or give you the ability to live life as you normally would. And so not having that and having to start from the beginning again, which essentially happens when you move countries. Obviously don't know what country you've moved to, but there could be a language barrier as well. So I think what I'm saying here is really don't underestimate how long it can take to get settled and established in a new country, in a new place. I mean, if I think about when my husband and I moved to LA, and we had various other big dramas happening in our family, but I would say it took a couple of years to really feel like my husband was back working, making connections. And so, like many things in life, our situations are temporary. And whilst it feels right now, you're very restricted, hearing you say, I worry about even taking one day off.
Yeah.
Which is a really horrible place to be. And when I was in a lot of debt, I too felt like that. I was working 2 extra jobs, and seriously like counting the pennies.
Yeah.
And when I was in that situation, it felt I'm never going to get myself out of this. And unfortunately, the answer is time, is some hard work and patience. But the fact that you're recognizing this is not sustainable, and that I'm so pleased to hear you have a therapist. That's amazing. But I love what Corey was saying around, like, what can you do with the resources that you have to replenish, to fill up your cup, without having to spend lots of money.
Yeah. My old boss used to talk about like when you work from home, because a lot of us are in these isolating positions now. And, you know, I've been a freelancer for the last 4 years, having been in corporate for most of my working time. And you can just turn around and you worked the whole day, forgetting that, like, if you work in an office, like, people are always coming over, tapping you on the shoulder, being like, let's go get a snack, or, oh, I wanted to talk to you about what happened this weekend. It's like none of that happens when you work in your bedroom. So it's like really important to build things into your day, like take a walk to start your day. And if you have to wake up 15 minutes earlier to do that, so you feel like you're on the clock for the right amount of time, like, do that. I want you, Anne, to have a delicate balance, like to Eve's point and to Corey's point, like leaning into the appreciation, but then also to Eve's point about be patient with the finances. Like it reminds me of when I had a baby. I went to the doctor, and of course afterwards I was like, oh, when am I going to lose this weight? And she said, 9 months in, 9 months out. Like you didn't put that weight on in a minute, and it's not coming off in a minute unless you're a celebrity with a very good surgeon. So, you know, I just say be patient, and it took this long to get in this position. It'll take a minute. So just build in everything you can to be gentle with yourself.
Yeah. And there's no question that you are a really hard worker. You really care about what you do. And so, you know, I know right now a 2-week vacation would seem just so far out of reach, but there's lots of research around burnout, and the fact that you're already identifying, I'm worried that I could get to that place quite soon. There was a researcher we worked with at Headspace, and she talked about these different types of breaks that you can incorporate into your day, but weeks and the month. So let me see if I can remember this. So micro, meso, and macro breaks. And so the micro breaks sounds like what you're already doing. Little breaks in the day. So as Robin said, a walk in the morning, perhaps again at lunch. Could you connect with a friend, particularly if you're freelancing, maybe meeting someone for lunch. Again, maybe don't go out for lunch. Maybe it's a picnic. Get creative with not having to spend the money, because that's obviously a concern for you. Then the meso breaks, she refers to as ideally once a week you're taking like an afternoon off. So that could be like a Friday afternoon to replenish, to rest, to restore. And then the macro is 1 day a month off. So maybe you could start there, small. And I know you said I can like almost see the money that I would have made, but, and I know you know this, and I'm sure you're talking about this with your therapist, but you really can't pour from an empty cup. And it's so, so important that you are taking that time to rest and replenish, because if you do get to a really bad state of burnout, you won't be able to work at all.
Yeah.
And so maybe starting small, and then as we've all been discussing, it feels like you're in the eye of the storm right now, but like Robin said, you had those savings and you can build them back up again.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Anne. We are with you. Everything's going to be great. Just be gentle. We're with you, and you're part of our community. So let us know how everything goes. Okay, so we have got our next question from Risa. Here we go.
Dear Headspace, my name is Risa, and I live in Vancouver, Canada. I am currently finishing a doctorate in piano performance and working on an ambitious dissertation in addition to my freelance work as a performer and teacher. I love both my academic and performance work, but often I feel frustrated by the injustices I feel in relation to my career as an artist. I have so much experience, knowledge, and education, but societally, artists are not well supported, and recently I have felt particularly frustrated watching friends and family who are not artists and who live in less expensive cities be able to own homes and raise families, for example. Despite my skills and qualifications and my financial literacy, it just feels impossible to be able to afford a home that would even have space for a child. So I'm wondering if you have suggestions of ways that I can feel more at peace with this reality. Thank you so much.
See, no, I love this question, Risa. Thank you so much for calling in with it, because I think, while Risa's speaking to artistry, there's many jobs where you're doing something that's fulfilling, that you love. I'm thinking of like social work or teachers, where the pay is not where it should be, for the work that is done and for the, for the level of education. And so I just think it's such a broad question, even though Risa's asking it in a really specific way. It's why we chose it. I love it.
Thank you for just being so honest, actually, about that. It can be a really tough decision, being really passionate and loving the work you do and feeling that it's not fair that you pour your heart and soul into the work you do. And because of the societal injustices that exist in certain sectors and industries, even with gender, there are massive inequalities in pay. You did share that you live in Vancouver. Vancouver is somewhere I want to visit. It's on our list to come actually this year.
She's coming by to say hi, Risa.
I'm going to come say hi. Yeah. But you mentioned that like less expensive cities. And so, I live in Los Angeles, so I can really relate to living in an expensive city. And what got me thinking from your question is weighing up, living somewhere like you do that, from what I've heard, is very beautiful, amazing access to nature. And of course, that doesn't pay the bills. But what I'm saying with this is really thinking about what's important to you in terms of, where you want to be, how you feel, where you live in your environment, because as we know, our environment is deeply attached and connected to our mental health, our physical health. And so it might be a helpful exercise, maybe you've done this already, but just writing down like the things that you really, really love about where you live, and then offsetting that with, well, if I was to move, what would I be giving up?
Yeah, that's interesting. Because it's like the to-doer in me wants to be like, well, Risa, let's look at your budget. Let's look at your hard costs. Could you move 10 miles further outside of the city? Could you, but it's like, that's not the question really, you know, it's like I'm an actor and like people tell me no 24/7, like, and they tell me no by just ignoring me forever. And it's like that, you know, and but I have to live with that. That's part of the business, the instability, the, you know, the way people treat you and how hard it is to make money. It's like, so I'm constantly just trying to reinvent myself and finding ways to, you know, to make it interesting, because I know there's nothing I could do different in my heart. It's what I want to do. So it's kind of like, well, it is what it is. How do I make it the best it can be?
It made me think back to when I first started my career in mental health, like even like just grad school. And everybody kept saying, you know, Corey, this is not like a money-making profession. No one gets into mental health because they want to become rich or, you know, just to have like a certain, you know, financial lifestyle. And I kept saying, oh, you guys don't know. You don't know. It's going to be me. I am going to be the one. And then throughout the program.
How'd that work out for you, Corey?
It took a lot longer. And I say that to say the way that I've continued to get myself through it is one, acceptance, getting to a space of acceptance and remembering why I do the things that I do, which I think could be helpful. Risa, if you're anything like me, you know, I don't think you got into your profession because of the finances per se, but because, like you mentioned earlier, it's just your general passion for it. And that's really what drives you. You feel like you found your place in the world, your purpose in the world. And, you know, while it can't make up for the houses we don't have or the bank accounts that we don't have, you have something really beautiful in this life that not everybody who has the houses and who has the money can say. You know, you have purpose, you have drive, you have something that wakes you up every morning that, you know, you're excited to do. And an argument could be made that is pretty priceless. And I think that's the road that we all travel, is trying to find that balance between passion and purpose while also trying to live the lives that we want to live externally. So I applaud you for the space that you're in. And I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to do what you love. But I do think acceptance is a big piece, and you never know what's around the corner for you. Maybe it's a new opportunity that you never imagined that could lead to a 10-bedroom house on the beach. You know, you never know.
Well, it's so funny because it's like, I'm thinking of all the appreciation work you guys are talking about, but I'm also thinking about the actor Ed Harris. And he talked about, he made, I don't, it had to be early 2000s when he made that movie Pollock, and it was his passion film. And he wanted to make it. And everybody in the industry was like, don't put your own money into a thing. That's like crazy. And he was like, I'm going to make this thing. And in order to fund it, he did all these like big budget, like World War II films that he knew were just paydays, that were not his passion, so that he could fund his passion. So the to-do list in me person is still like, well, there might be a way to have it be more palatable while you're finding the appreciation. Like there might be a way to find some more lucrative avenues to what you do. I mean, there might not be. It might be, it is what it is. But I do think that I think about the Ed Pollock method all the time when I'm trying to figure out my path of like, I got 2 teens that have to eat. So it's like, I got to do that and then also do really bad commercials for not a lot of money. So it's, you know, it's a delicate balance.
Yeah, it's Corey, I really loved what you said around the passion, purpose, and that being in some ways priceless, because a lot of people are really not happy in the work that they do, and they're paid a lot of money for it, but they're highly stressed. They're burnt out. They don't see their family.
Yeah.
They don't take vacations because they're too busy working. And there was a Gallup who run a lot of workplace studies, showed that 55% of Americans are moderately to highly stressed every day. And that's not to say that every one of those people is high earners, but I think it speaks to this notion that what we spend over a third of our time at work on average, which is more than we spend time with our families, our friends. And so loving what you do is highly valuable. However, I think I could hear in your voice, especially when you said, let alone a house that could fit a child.
Yeah.
And so if that is something that is really important to you, like Robin said, maybe it could be a good exercise to sit down, look at your budget and think, well, if this is my goal to have a child within X number of years or soon, like what sacrifices or modifications could I maybe start to make in order for that to happen? And I think there's lots of ways you can approach this. Obviously, do you move slightly further away to a less expensive place, but then thinking about what would you be giving up to do that?
Yeah.
But you could be gaining the family that you want.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it doesn't have to be an either or. And knowing that, like in our previous question, this idea that things feel very fixed and they won't ever change. Like the truth is we don't know what's around the corner.
Yeah.
And that really does apply to opportunity as well. I think we can spend a lot of time worrying about the things that might be around the corner and less time thinking about what are the what ifs that could happen that are really positive. And so, yeah, giving yourself maybe some short term, 3 months in a year, what would be some shifts that would work for you, meaning that you don't have to give up too much, but you're working towards those things that are really important to you.
Yeah, I love that. And I absolutely loved what you said there, Eve, when you said, when you switched out sacrifices for modifications, because that just seems like much more palatable to my brain anyway. So I love that. Well, good luck. We just, reset. You're going to find your balance. And I don't know. I just feel like when we answer a question, I always feel like they've got this. Like I always feel
hopeful.
Like they're going to handle this. And Risa's no different. Thank you so much, Risa. Thank you so much. And here's a question from Kristen.
Hi, Headspace people. My name is Kristen. I am from Arkansas, US. And my question is, how do I stop exaggerating? I have found that I tend to exaggerate things, especially when telling stories. I think that sometimes when I tell these stories, I worry about losing people's attention. I worry about, how the story's coming across. And so I end up adding in a detail to try and get that attention back. So yeah, if anyone just has anything insightful to say, I'd really appreciate it.
I absolutely love this question, Kristen. Thank you for it. Because as a storyteller and a person who loves funny, like exaggeration is the basis of funny often.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so it's like, I'm just listening from that point of view, but it sounds like maybe that's not quite where Kristen's coming from with it. Like it sounds like it's wanting to not lose folks.
Yeah. She kind of answered her question within this statement. I caught onto the piece of you don't want to lose their attention and you wonder how the story's coming across. So I think for me it was kind of digging into the why of that. If I were to explore that train of thought, what would it mean if I lost their attention? How bad, would things get bad? What is the worst case scenario if I lost their attention or if they just were disinterested, does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it's kind of like that. What's the worst case scenario if I ask this person on a date? Well, they say no, I don't implode. I might feel like I want to implode, but I don't. It's like sitting with that uncomfortableness of people wandered off while I was talking. Okay, It happens.
Yeah, exactly that. It does. People's attention does wander.
Not when you're talking, Eve. I'm listening.
Thanks. It also depends on who's your audience. Because if this is good friends, family, no one's there. In fact, I would go on to say, even if it was coworkers or people that maybe in your extended community, generally speaking, no one's there to pick holes in your story or to see you fail. And I think to Robin's point, everyone does a little bit of embellishing sometimes. You know, I'm laughing a little bit internally because my husband really can exaggerate sometimes. And then I'm there if we're together and he's telling a story. I'm like, babe, no, it was 4 hours.
I bet he loves that.
Loves it. Loves it. But yeah, I know how to yank his chain, as they say. But anyway, somewhat joking, but you know, don't be too hard on yourself, because this is something pretty much everyone does. And we all have this desire to want to be interesting and for people to find us entertaining and funny. And that's how we maintain connections and enjoy ourselves with people. The one thing that I picked up on that you said is my intention isn't to cause any harm. And so where I go to with that is, this is something one of my meditation teachers told me, and it's tied to the Eightfold Path, which is a Buddhist approach to how we show up in the world. And one of them is wise speech. And so what this really speaks to is like, is this helpful? Is it true? And does it need to be said? And so you said sometimes you're not aware of it happening. I think when it comes to the harm piece, if you're adding flavor to a story that is maybe talking about someone else or highlighting maybe something negative about something, just be like, this is maybe a little harmful. It's is it kind?
Yeah.
As well. And you know, there can be a fine line between taking the mickey out of someone versus more on the maybe slightly, let's say, vindictive side.
Yeah.
And so when you're in a situation like that and you maybe start to feel that nervousness, like, am I going to lose my attention? Do I need to say something funny? Or maybe you're joining in with someone else's commentary about someone and thinking, hang on, is this kind? Is this true? Is this harmful? Like, and does it need to be said? Could be a helpful gauge for you.
Those are fantastic guardrails. Fantastic. Because it's like, if it's funny and it's not hurting anyone, go big, make it funny.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, I've noticed recently that sometimes, like, if I'm retelling a story, like maybe to my wife, I'm starting to, like, when I'm retelling a story, like maybe I'm upset with someone, I'll drop in something that I wished I had said that makes my argument better. And as of recently, I've started being like, well, I didn't say that I was thinking that, but it's along the lines of, because I'm like, I don't need to win the war, win the argument. And so I'm just trying to call myself out on it. And at first it felt uncomfortable to call myself out. And then I was just like, no, I didn't actually say that. And then I just keep moving because I'm just, you know, it's like, I don't need to make the story bigger or better in that instance. And so that's why I love your guardrails, like, Eve, because that's so clean and so clear with that.
Yeah. I agree. And I think to Eve's point about being intentional with our language, the question that came up for me is, who does this serve? If I am embellishing, how does this serve me? And how does this serve the person that's listening?
Yeah.
You know, of course, in like the lighter moments, and like, let me tell you about this crazy story on the subway, you know, like, you know, that's one thing. But I imagine that this is in reference to more, I would guess, serious conversations with people. And if that's the case, how does it serve you and how does it serve them?
Well, does it stack the deck? Right? Like, if I'm embellishing the story to my wife and I'm trying to make her mad at the person I'm mad at, I'm putting my thumb on the scale by putting in all these things I didn't actually say.
Yeah.
So it's like, to your point, it doesn't, you know, it's not like, then it's not an honest conversation.
Yeah.
It's not real because that's not what really happened.
And that's kind of where my mind went, just wanting to always be aware of that, ensuring that like I guess being intentional with our language in that way, right? So I completely agree with everything Eve said. I think also we often pay more attention to ourselves than other people do. And I think that goes for everybody. So you're worried about them, you know, not paying attention in the story, when they're probably not even thinking about that at all.
They're on their grocery list.
Yeah. That's just something that I try to even remind myself of. I am paying much more attention to myself than other people are. So 9 times out of 10, you are probably just fine. And, I'm pretty sure your story is great and they're tuned in.
Yeah. Like you're there critiquing and evaluating yourself, whereas they probably learned something new. And so I think when it comes to interactions and communications, if your intention is to share a funny story, like share in the laughter and the joy, and if you add a little flavor to it that makes it more funny, great. But if it is that harm piece is sneaking its way in, just sense checking and going, you know what, this is not serving me, to Corey's point, and it's almost certainly not going to serve the people listening.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your question, Kristen. Well, you two, that was just absolutely fantastic. And I'm always so fascinated at the varied questions that we get. And then like the themes that always emerge. It's so interesting.
Yeah, these were really big questions in the sense that Anne moving to another country, Risa questioning like, how can I get the things in life that others have, but still remain true to what I'm passionate about and I care about? And Kristen touching on something I think everyone will relate to.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
Absolutely.
For Anne, I was thinking, I actually wrote a course on financial stress, and it's in the app. It's a 10-day course. And it was really based off my own experience of being in a lot of debt and how I managed that. And so I definitely recommend checking that out.
That's fantastic. What an excellent suggestion. I didn't even realize that was in there, Eve. Well played. All right, adding it to my rotation. And now I would like to take a moment to say thank you to Anne and Risa and Kristen for their questions today. I mean, we just appreciate you all being part of our community. And if you are also a part of our community, you're listening and you have a question that you want to ask on Dear Headspace, all you have to do is go to sayhi.chat/Dear Headspace, and then you record your question. It's as simple as that. The link is in the show notes. And if we do use your question on Dear Headspace, you're going to get 3 months of Headspace for free.
We absolutely love to hear from you.
Until next time, stay happy,
stay healthy,
and be kind to each other.